All right, everyone, we're ready for assignment 4 now. This one's going to involve the Sheets application, and we'll do a little bit of creation, we'll do a little bit of manipulation, and then we'll share it back to our WME at the end. So I'm going to bring on over the instructions that I've already opened. If you click on the written instructions, they're right here. The video, the one I'm making right at this moment, is going to be right here. So I'm going to swing these on over into view, and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to have our folder open again. Make sure you're in that folder where you're creating this. That way, it'll automatically be populated in here when we get done creating it. So we're going to go to New, and we're going to go to Sheets, and you're going to click Create and Share. And in the top left corner, we're going to rename this Assignment 4 as soon as it lets me. All right, pretty simple and standard thing to do off the bat. And then it says we're going to add some sheets. So go to the bottom of the Sheets window and you will see the plus symbol right down here. And you'll notice we already have sheet 1. This will give us sheet 2. And modifying sheet tabs, in sheet 1, we're going to rename it. And we're just going to call it Table 1, just to show you that you can rename it. And then we're going to double click Sheet 2 and we're going to rename it Table 2, just to keep it simple. Then it's going to ask you to click the down arrow next to Sheet 1 on the first sheet tab and select Change Color. Alright, right here. And then we're going to change color. You can pick whatever color you want. I'm going to pick my school colors. The first one's going to be blue, and the second one, I'm going to change its color, and we're going to make it black. Typically our colors are blue and white, but white doesn't really show up, so I'm going to make it black so it actually shows up when you look at the tab down at the bottom. I'm going to lift this whole screen up so you can see that difference. There it is. Now you can kind of tell. Down here at the bottom, the two sheet tabs, now their base is a different color. That's changing the color of a tab. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to modify some text. What I'd like you to do here is if you have a set of information that's in like a table format, you can go ahead and get that. It could be a class list, it could be anything. Anything relevant to what you might teach. I have an example that you can use. If you click on it, it'll show up like so. And if you want to take this information and copy and paste it over to yours, you can. So I'm going to go I'm going to select it, then I'm going to go Command C, and then I'll come over here and I'll paste it on in, Command V, and we can use some of this information to, now I'm going to close that, we can use some of this information to show you how to manipulate the work here. So as we go through this, we're going to show you some different things that we can do. The first thing we're going to do is show you how to merge your title across the first row. So I'm going to deselect all that information and I'm going to grab this first cell. I'm clicking, holding, and I'm going to drag through the first 3 cells. That's A1, B1, and C1. Okay, so I've grabbed those 3. Over here, you're going to see the Merge Cells option. We're going to click on that to bring all that information together. So you'll notice there's no more boxes splitting them. All that information is all in one. The next thing we're going to focus on after we merge those cells, we're going to hit the Center Align button. So we're going to select that cell and we're going to hit Center Align right here. Okay. After changing that, the next thing we're going to do is modify the secondary headings. Well, before that, I missed one spot. We're going to select this and let's make this 18, font size 18. And what happens if this happens? What should you do? There's a couple things you can do. You can come over here and you can double click between A and B, and that'll bring it out to auto fit, so to speak. It'll auto fit that first cell. If you don't want it to be that extended, that same spot, you can click, hold, and drag the column, and you can size it up as you see fit. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back a little bit because I don't think it needs to be that big. Somewhere in there is probably appropriate for me and what I'm trying to do here. So we resized it, we centered it. Let's also bold it so you can see what a bold heading looks like. If you really want to, it's up to you. You can change the color of it. There's your color settings right there. I'm going to go with purple this time. And the other thing you can do, let's say you don't want this full title straight across, maybe you want to shorten it. So we got class action lawsuits, and maybe we want to put per business 2007 to 2017 underneath. There's two ways that you can do that. The first way is if you select this and you shrink it down, and let's bring this way back. Shrinking it down, we can come up here and bring it back, making it smaller, so now it's going to force us to fit it another way. Instead of dragging it so it stays really long, we're going to sit inside here so we can keep these columns a little slender, and we're going to use our Alt and Enter option to move that right underneath so we can have a two-leveled heading. And then we'll come on down here. You could also use your text wrap option. If you had this selected, you could text wrap it. But for now, we're just going to do this. We're going to do Alt Enter. So now, third thing we're going to do is modify our secondary headings. To do that, we're going to select A2 to C2, just like so. We're going to change the font size to 12. We're going to change the font color to red, or any color that you like. I'm going to go with this gray. No, let's not do gray. Let's do like this teal color. You can pick whatever color you want. I'm not too picky about that. And now I also want you to center and underline these headings. So let's, as we have them selected, hold Command or Control and hit U. That will underline them. And then we would also like to center them. So over here, if you come over to the center option with the alignment tool, you can center them up on the page. Okay. Now let's see if we wanted all of these columns to be the same size. One of the easy ways to do that is select all your columns and then drag between one of them, and that'll resize them all to be the same. Alright, now that's not long enough because types of business isn't shown, so you kind of have to experiment with what you want there, and that looks pretty good to me. Now, the one thing I know about this particular problem is that these two columns, the information is not as big, so maybe I just select these two columns and shrink them in. You can kind of play with that and make it how you want. I'm not going to be too picky about that either. I just want to see that you can make those changes to those columns. Okay, so as we keep going on, you picked your color. We underlined the headings. Now we're going to select the range A3 to A7 for all types of business. So just this information right here, and we're going to change the Arial. We're going to change it from Arial to some other font. So up here in your options, how to change your fonts, there we go. Again, you can pick whatever you want. I'm going to go with Cinzel. I think that looks kind of neat. After you do that, change the font color again. This is getting pretty colorful, but again, we're just practicing how to do it. Let's go, another complementary color might be orange. How about? It's going to be an ugly one, isn't it? But we're going to go with it. So after you change your color there, it does need to be viewable. That's about as light as it can get and still be viewable. The fourth thing we're going to do is center a column of information. So let's pick column B, and we're going to come over here. This will center up our numbers, and we're going to hit center again. I get it, it already had the center selected because this information in the title was centered, but these numbers weren't. So if you click it again, it'll center up all this information too. In fact, I'm going to center up everything in C as well because I want to see that align with my title. Okay, so when we ever do put numbers in here, which we're going to put some formulas in, those numbers will show up as centered. Alright, we're ready to put some formulas in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to total a column. So what I'd like you to do is select cell B8 right here, and then we're going to go to the auto sum feature. It may or may not be showing up over here. My screen, or the width of my screen is not wide enough to show everything on the toolbar, so there's these three dots. You click on there, you go to your auto sum feature, and we're going to sum up this column. if you click the sum option, and I'll do that again just to show you it. Sum is right there, it's the first option. There are plenty of other formulas, but sum's the main one we're going to work with here. And once you do that, there needs to be a range that we select. So we want to sum up all these numbers. So I'm clicking, holding, and dragging through all these numbers. After I've done that, I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice a total shows up. Hopefully you got 99 if you're following along and doing the example that I'm doing. Now, if you've chosen to do your own, I would like to see somewhere on your own example that you have a sum formula used. All right. So after we've summed up our column there, our column B, we're now going to move on to C, and I would like you to select cell 3. This is where we're at in the instructions. So cell 3 is our next selection, and we're going to put this formula in, this B3 divided by $B, $8. So let's go equals. This starts every formula if you've ever put a formula in Excel before, or Sheets in this case. And then we're going to click on B3. B3 is this cell right here. There's the 3, there's the B, that's where they meet. That makes it B3, the cell. Now we're going to divide that by our total, the cell B8. And I'm just going to click on B8. However, I want to make it a continuous use of B8 as we drag the formula down. So every time it'll divide each number by this 99. So we can get a percentage of suits. All right. And this is how we're calculating a percentage. So we're going to find out restaurants, manufacturers, farmers, sports organizations, drug companies who have a certain percentage of suits that are class action lawsuits. Okay, I'm using a business law analogy here. This is a previous example I used in the earlier videos when I first made this course. So if you're wondering where this random information is coming from. So in order to make this an absolute cell reference, we have to put a $ in front of B and a $ in front of 8. And that will make, every time I drag this formula down, and you'll see that here in a second, it'll relative reference that, and it'll use it every time. Now before we drag the formula, you'll notice this big old decimal showed up. To make that a percentage, all you have to do is come up here and click the percent sign, and that'll turn it into a nice little neat percentage for us. Now, some people would go ahead and type in every formula to calculate each spot, but we don't have to do that. We can click on this cell with the formula behind it. You can see it in this function bar. We can drag this little fill handle down, and it will calculate the rest of those for us. That's a pretty handy little feature, and you'll notice on each cell that we click after that, B8 stayed relative or stayed absolute for each next division. So we wanted to see what percentage of suits were made up in these class action lawsuits, what the percentage was, and you can tell by the numbers how high the percentage was roughly, or which one was the biggest. But it's always interesting to see by percentage what they all end up being more specifically. So that's one way to do that. Okay, so now that we've got that fixed and we've got our percentage set up, the next thing we're going to do is put a chart and a graph in. All right, to put our chart in, we're going to make this pretty simple and pretty straightforward. I'm not going to make this chart complicated. It's just to show you how to do it. We're going to select our data that we want to chart. So we're going to chart all this information right here. Obviously we have the percentages, but it's always nice to have a chart to give it a little bit more visual display. So we're going to take this information and chart it. To do that, after you've selected it, you're going to go to Insert, and you're going to go to Chart over here, and it'll automatically put in this column chart. But maybe you want a different chart, and actually I do want to see a different chart. I want to see a pie chart. And so if you click the down arrow on types of charts here, you have all kinds to look at. You can go regular pie chart or 3D pie chart, totally up to you. Let's say you pick this basic pie chart and you don't really want that. You want something a little more fancy. Maybe you want the 3D. All right, you can see kind of the chunks of the pie there. I prefer this. I like this kind of chart. And so once you chart this information, that's really the depth of this particular. If you want to explore beyond, you can go to the Customize and you can look at chart style. You can look at pie chart, some more specific information about the donut hole, the border. That you can go as far as you want. But all I need for this particular series is for you to show me that you can put this table together, manipulate the cells, bold, underline, and auto fit these cells and make it look nice and neat. We don't need to go any more in depth than that. And this pie chart's pretty simple and pretty plain. Again, dragging it in and out, you can show your data points a little bit better if it's a little wider. You may want to consider increasing the size of your table so it reaches out to the width of this to make it kind of look nice. But that's totally up to you and your preference. So at this point, we're ready to share this thing, put it in the WME, and make it accessible for our students. And this is my example. If you have something better, by all means, please feel free to use your own version. But make sure you include or try to work around somehow to put percentages in. You know how to calculate percentages of the formula and how to auto sum, know how to do the different details as far as the appeal and the look and the appearance of it, as well as inserting a chart. Okay, that's all that I ask. So let's now share this back to our WME. So we're going to go to share over here, and we have a can view. We can copy the link, and so I'm going to click on that link and I'm going to hit copy, and then I'm going to go open my WME and I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to pause this, go get my WME, and then we'll plug it in. Alright, I've got my WME pulled up. I came up here and I clicked right next to my assignment 2. I'm going to hit enter a couple times. I'm going to type in assignment 4, and then I'm going to select that information, and I'm going to click the link option up here in my toolbar. And I previously had copied the link to my assignment 4, so now I'm going to paste it in, Command V, and I'm going to hit apply. Now if you're not sure if it actually made it, you can always click on the link and see if it did. I'm not going to do that. I'm pretty confident I made it happen. Okay, so now I have assignment 2 and I have assignment 4 in here. I'm ready to move on to assignment 6. By the way, posting this in here like this as a link and naming it assignment 4 is actually assignment 5. That's what you're supposed to do for the application of assignment 5. So I hope that's not too confusing, but if you look at your slides, I'll minimize this now. If you look at your slides, assignment 5 says add sheets link to WME. That's what we just did. Okay, so we're ready to move on to this assignment 6 and slides, and so I'm going to cut this off and start a new one with slides.